The travel industry will recover, but what will it look like when it does? Welcome to MojoTravels, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 travel trends for 2021. Are you a fan of our videos? Be sure to subscribe to MojoTravels and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at some of the biggest shifts that we expect to see in travel in 2021, both in terms of traveler priorities and the industry as a whole. Trends come and go, but following a global health crisis, 2021 is shaping up to be a year of big changes for travel. Number 10. Domestic travel. After being made to feel unsafe going outside in 2020, many travelers will be left with a lingering sense of discomfort being out and about in the world. Add to that the threat of being stuck in a foreign country in the event of a resurgence, and you can understand why many people might prefer to stick to travel within their own borders for a little while. And why not? A shifting focus towards domestic travel is a great way to help stimulate the local economy. It's also an opportunity for travelers to explore their own backyard. Before our world got turned upside down by the pandemic, the dominant mentality of travelers seemed to be the further and more unfamiliar the better. In 2021, however, travelers are going to finally be getting acquainted with everything their own country has to offer. Number 9. Trips inspired by pop culture. While a sizable portion of travelers may choose to keep it domestic, there are others who are going to be itching to get out there and see the world. And after months cooped up at home, they've likely got plenty of inspiration. One of the few industries that actually benefited from the pandemic are streaming services. People have had more time than ever to consume content new and old. And after being exposed to a destination through the filter of a big-budget film or television series, the desire to enter into that environment for yourself becomes all the stronger. Dubrovnik and Northern Ireland are likely to be hit with a new wave of Game of Thrones fans. Thanks to the hit HBO miniseries, Chernobyl tourism is similarly likely to spike. From beautiful New Zealand, aka Middle-earth, to Tony Soprano's New Jersey, many such destinations can expect a boost in tourism. Number 8. Offline tourism. Don't get us wrong, we're feeling very grateful that the internet exists. Imagine having had to weather the pandemic without it. We'd rather not. Be that as it may, after spending unprecedented amounts of time online, and many of us having been glued to our screens working from home, people are in desperate need of a little break. The internet remains absolutely essential to trip planning, but many travelers are voicing their intention to make a conscious effort to keep their smartphone use to a minimum once the journey has begun. Instagram posts can wait until later. After having experienced a world without travel, and only being able to explore destinations digitally during the pandemic, many travelers are likely to feel inspired to really be present and in the moment on their next trip. Number 7. Old Standards Reimagined. The travel industry's road to recovery is likely to be long. The pandemic itself is only the first of many hurdles that businesses need to overcome. Governments greenlighting travel is all well and good, but companies still need to get creative in order to attract customers. As such, airlines are expected to push in two directions simultaneously. They'll likely slash prices to fill seats, but certain airlines will also endeavor to make flying an inherently enjoyable experience, at a premium price of course. Imagine an open-concept airplane boasting luxury features like a bar, entertainment spaces, and more. Back to the future. Perhaps the biggest change, however, will be the rise of river cruises. Cruise lines are going to have a really hard time attracting passengers now that their vulnerability to outbreaks has been highlighted. As such, companies are banking on river cruises as an alternative, given that they present low risk. Not absolutely, but in comparison to ocean cruises. Number 6. Greater consumer protection. Airlines, hotels, cruise lines, and tour companies are all going to be working overtime to get people traveling in 2021. As we were saying, many business models will need to change, but so too will the fine print. Quite simply, people are going to be much more hesitant booking a trip now that they know firsthand just how quickly it can be taken away from them. Countless travelers lost a lot of money when the pandemic hit. In a bid to get customers to book with them, businesses will likely be offering greater flexibility when it comes to changing a travel date or even delaying a trip indefinitely in the event of unforeseen circumstances. By the same token, while medical insurance has long been a no-brainer, you can expect to see a major increase in the number of travelers who are willing to pay for trip cancellation insurance. Number 5. Multi-generational travel. As much as people missed travel in 2020, it's safe to say that they missed their family and friends even more. Because elderly people were found to be particularly vulnerable during the health crisis, many older adults were unexpectedly cut off from visiting with their children and grandchildren. As restrictions on social distancing are relaxed, however, many families intend to make up for lost time by taking a trip all together. A family dinner or barbecue is all well and good, but multi-generational travel is a surefire way to make lasting memories together that you'll cherish for years to come. Of course, families weren't the only ones cut off from one another during the pandemic. As such, industry insiders are also expecting an increase in group travel with friends across multiple demographics. Number 4. Prioritizing the well-being of local communities. One of the few good things to come out of the pandemic has been an increased sense of community. That might seem strange since social distancing created greater physical space between us than ever before. But tragedy and crisis unites us in unexpected ways. People have gone out of their way to help local businesses and those most affected by the shutdowns and layoffs. Even when life quote-unquote goes back to normal, there's widespread hope that this newfound sense of interconnectedness will persist. And within the context of travel, there's reason to believe that it will extend to the communities that people visit when taking a trip. The pandemic devastated local economies around the world, and experts are predicting that travelers will be prioritizing destinations that were hit hardest. Expect to be hearing the term philantourism a lot more in the next couple of years. Number 3. Eco-responsible travel. One of the biggest concerns stemming from the pandemic is that, faced with a more immediate crisis, people put environmental and climate change concerns on the back burner. But the pandemic has actually proven to be a double-edged sword in this regard. Yes, the environment may also take the backseat to economic recovery, but the obvious environmental improvements we've seen during the pandemic also hammer home the connection between decreased human activity and the health of our planet. It's hard to predict how people will behave once the crisis is well and truly behind us, but industry insiders claim that sustainable travel is poised to be a major priority for travelers moving forward. After seeing such notable changes stemming from reduced travel, like improved air quality, there's stronger motivation to do it more responsibly in the future. Number 2. Social distancing, remote destinations, and embracing undertourism. After conditioning ourselves to avoid unnecessary human contact and large crowds, it's going to be hard to go back. And with concerns about a second wave, many travelers will likely make their first post-pandemic trip one that includes elements of social distancing. City travel will inevitably resume, but we'll see much higher percentages of people embracing destinations that receive relatively few tourists, including wide-open natural spaces. Travel agents and websites report that beach destinations in particular are doing well in terms of advanced bookings. In favor of discount all-inclusives, however, travelers are prioritizing more remote, isolated beach communities where crowds are uncommon. After spending so much time inside, nature is expected to be the big draw. National parks, African safaris, wilderness treks. Expect to be hearing a lot more about all of the above in 2021. Number 1. The big bucket list trip. Pretty much everybody has a travel bucket list with multiple destinations on it, but there's almost always one big trip that exists in a category all of its own. Whether because of cost, the complexity of the planning involved, or the time commitment it requires, we tend to put off this trip, taking smaller, more manageable journeys instead. Well, in the wake of the pandemic, many people will eventually be done putting it off. There's nothing like seeing global travel come to a screeching halt to give you a dose of perspective and rearrange your priorities. Many travelers are going to decide that the time for that trip of a lifetime is in the present. After all, as we've all had to learn the hard way, the freedom to travel can disappear in the blink of an eye. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MojoTravels, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.